lot of people wondering why Andy is not answering the phone when I call him. Some people positing we're in the middle of some sort of feud. I assure you that's not the case. There's actually a very innocent explanation. He did answer the phone last week when I called, but he was near a gas pump at a gas station and he burst into flames. That's what the trades are calling Frisbee's revenge. I asked him to send me a voice note. I basically realized he's just not going to answer the thing. I said, look, the Jackals feel like you're Nick Cage, sounds like you're Alf. So send me a voice note where you're Nick Cage saying an Alf line, and then Alf saying a Nick Cage line, and we can see how that goes. I think the best, because I just got this, I'm just going to hold it up here and play it.
Okay, first off, that's very offensive. They're super different, and I'm going to prove it now. Here's Nick Cage. I'm going to eat the cat. And here's Alf. I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence. No problem. In your face, Jackals.
Nice conclusion, a nice conclusion. Nina Levin. Somebody said, does Seth think Pat Sajak still hosts Wheel of Fortune? I did. Fully did. I bust on my crew sometimes. And in doing so, I maybe lean into some New Jersey stereotypes, some Italian-American stereotypes. And I want to apologize for that. Or at least I did want to apologize for it until Sarah last week told me that during a lunch break, she walked under the bleachers and they were all watching The Sopranos on a flat screen TV. And when I asked them where they got the flat screen, they said, don't worry about it. It's none of your business. And that's for why Sarah would share that gossip, Irish. Oh, can we put up the P.O. box again? I was doing stand-up this weekend at the Beacon, and we did a Q&A, and somebody raised his hand and said, I have a hat for you. And I said, oh, great. And he said, what's your P.O. box? I told him I would put it up here. A lot of people have noticed the difference of corrections, before and after Buck left. And I feel like if you were going to commemorate it with one closed captioning, it would be this right here. Thanks for the assist, YouTube. Somebody said they were surprised. Closer look, I said I only knew 3 straights. People said they were surprised. I said, surely you know Bering Strait. Of course I do. I know George Strait. You would know George Strait too if you had my father-in-law. He's like, you like George Strait? I'm like, yeah, man. You know what I'd like even more? Going a day without you asking. Here's a comment. I said episodes 141, 149, and 156 were in the running for our Emmy submission. Here's a comment. I showed 3 episodes of Corrections, those 3 episodes of Corrections, to someone and asked them which one they would nominate for an Emmy, and this followed. Them, the 2nd episode. Me, why? What did you like about it? Them, it was the shortest. 150, a lot of buzz for 150. So maybe let's do a poll in the next, wherever we put our polls, Lederman. Let's do 141 versus 150 and 149 versus 156. I talked about how Lindsey Graham couldn't do a performance of Wicked because those are not public rights. And then as Lindsey, I said I would never do that to Stephen Schwartz, so we're doing Chess. And a lot of people said Stephen Schwartz didn't do Chess. I know, Stephen Schwartz did Wicked, and Lindsey Graham would never offend Stephen Schwartz. That was my point. Somebody said, now that you've brought up the specter of Lindsey Graham performing Chess, you've got to give an impression of him singing One Night in Bangkok. I'm not going to do that. We're going to invade Bangkok, Oriental City. City doesn't know what the city isn't getting. I'm going to say something. You're going to disagree with me, Shu. One Night in Bangkok, top 5 Murray Head song. Somebody said when I dyed my hair black, I look like a character and I think you should leave. I'm a Seth Meyers lookalike at a party that's allowed to slap you. I had a joke last week about an offensive drag queen name based on a tragedy. A jackal sent in one that was even worse, but I didn't want to say it because I feel like everybody here would groan. But I did say it earlier in this closer look with no context. Tintin isn't English, he's Belgian. I knew that. I don't know why I didn't catch it. If there's a lesson in there, it's like, I shouldn't read the monologue for the first time during the show. Did a bit about kids in a basement playing video games. A lot of you pointed out, this looks like an attic. And you know what? Fair point. Just like, I was like, do a couple of nerds in a basement. And they were like, how about the 2 richest kids you've ever met? I'm gonna finish on something that sounds like a bit, it's not a bit. Scollins wrote a movie. Scollins wrote a movie called Brian. It premiered at South by Southwest this weekend. Stars Ben Wang, Will Ropp directed it. And these are some reviews. I'm going to read some lines from the reviews of a movie Mike Scollins, that one. These are lines from actual reviews. Brian is unexpectedly heartfelt for a writer known for his stinging satire. Brian is an instant classic filled to the brim with comedy, heart, and love for this one life of ours. It's absolutely exploding with heart. Screenwriter Mike Scollins captures the rhythms of how teenagers speak with pinpoint precision, crafting incredibly funny dialogue that feels current and timeless. That's probably why he's always hanging out with him. His every move feels real, which is easy to do when you have dialogue. Is sensitively written as this from scribe Mike Scollins. And here's the thing. I'm not surprised the movie got great reviews. I've seen the movie. The movie's fantastic. I'm still surprised that Scollins is the guy who wrote it. This is not the kind of writing he does for us. You know, he's our resident masshole. He writes to offend, to ruin people's days, mine first. And yet he wrote this beautiful movie with so much heart, so much so that I worried that I maybe had misjudged him for who he was. Because again, I was judging his personality based on the work I see every day. And so I went into his office today and I said, I hope you are proud of yourself for this work you did. It's really hard to pull something like this off, and I'm proud that I get to work with you. And then he said, what am I, your boyfriend now? And he threw a battery at me. And he didn't even have to grab it. It turns out he had it in his hand the whole time. Just walks around with a battery. Anyway, look, here's proof. There's a Variety review. Look at that. Unbelievable. We'll talk about it more when you can see it in theaters, but we are very happy for our friend Mike Scollins. And yeah, we have one. See you next week.